This is Ashley Nofke and you're watching Cricket Australia TV.
Well, when we won the match against Victoria last Saturday, which meant we were hosting the final, was one thing, but secondly, automatic qualification for the Champions League. And that's when we really kicked into gear that if we wanted to have an overseas player play for us in the Champions League, that player had to play in Saturday's final to qualify. So that's the background behind it.
And what happened with the negotiation process? What point did you approach him, and what happened along that timeline?
Well, we'd actually made contact with Brendan before the Big Bash competition started, because we were actually looking at having him play the whole series. But unfortunately, his commitments with New Zealand just didn't allow that. So he was certainly a player that we had in our sights, but it was only after last Saturday night's game that things kicked back into gear, and we got back in touch with him, and he was very, very interested. But there was still, a barrier in the way. His state team in New Zealand, Otago, had a match last Wednesday that they had to win with a bonus point, which would have meant that team qualified for a semi-final, which Brendan couldn't play anyway because he'd be here in Australia with the New Zealand team. They won and they got the bonus point, but they got the bonus point by one run. So, talk about all the planets aligning. It's been quite eerie.
How much debate was there internally about the kind of effect this would have on the team, and did you consult people within the team about whether they'd be, especially the captain, the coach, about how happy they'd be this happening?
Yeah, the captain and coach were very much to the fore in terms of discussing this, as were our selectors, and ultimately it had to have the approval of our board. So, it's gone through all the right channels. And it's a decision that's going to polarise opinion, but on balance, I think it's been a very positive outcome.
Well, I was going to say it's probably the most hype we've had before a state game in recent memory.
Well, probably since Andrew Johns played for New South Wales in a 2020 game about 3 years ago. But look, 2020 cricket really does lend itself to the marquee player concept, and obviously with the Southern Premier League that's going to come into being in 2011. Between now and then, I think you're going to find states are going to really ramp up, their activities in terms of signing overseas players or just general promotional activity.
It was a little interesting for you today with the rumours that Gilchrist and then possibly Warne might suit up for Victoria.
Look, fantastic if it happened. When I heard that Gilchrist had been approached, I thought, gee, wouldn't that be great? Have a head-to-head McCullum v Gilchrist. Two of probably the best, wicketkeeper batsmen, opening hitters in the game's history. But unfortunately, from what I've heard, Adam has declined. Who knows? The Vicks might turn up with Warney tomorrow.
Now, you're not a coach, but you're not at all concerned about two keepers being out there in the field?
No, talking to Brendan McCullum today, he was actually really looking forward to running around the field. He said, it's going to actually allow him to sort of settle into it a lot more easily than keeping wicket, because obviously that's a very, very intense position in terms of every ball, how much you're in the action. Brendan's been signed purely and simply to open the batting and try and get us off to a flyer and get a big score, and he's comfortable with that.
And finally, what does qualification for the Champions League 2020 mean to both Cricket New South Wales and the RTA Speedbirds Blues?
Oh, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. It puts the New South Wales team on the world stage. That tournament come October is going to be beamed to a television audience which you'd expect to be in the hundreds of millions, and that's great for the brand of New South Wales cricket. We can't wait.
For match highlights, interviews and features, make sure you're watching CATV on cricket.com.au.
It's cricket 24/7.